Okay, Edward here from the Future Forecasting Group, and I have my friend Paul Smith. Paul, it's always a real honor and a pleasure when you stop by when you're in town, and I'm so happy to have you here. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, it's good to be here in Austin and, back to my old stomping grounds.
I was just going to say, your old stomping grounds.
Yeah.
And so you were telling me, when we were talking earlier, that you're going to be going to Houston to do a talk in Houston at the Rice University?
It's not exactly a talk, but yeah,
Okay.
There's a conference down there. So let me give some background. Several years back, Rice University got some archives from some noted parapsychologists and people involved in the paranormal in general. And they formed what's called Archives of the Impossible. The idea of impossible being these are things that are supposed to be impossible, and yet they're being done, right? For example, they have Jacques Vallée's archives. They have, I'm blanking on that guy's name, Bill. Well, it doesn't matter.
Bill Meyer?
No, nobody like that. He was an actual scientific parapsychologist.
Okay.
He'll probably come to me by the time we're done. And they have Ed May. Ed May recently donated his archives there, which are, of course, really the archives of the SAIC remote viewing program.
Right.
So there are some of Ingo Swann's papers in there. There was a little bit of a kerfluffle about that because most of Ingo's archives are over at the University of West Georgia, and some folks thought that they all ought to be there, and of course Ed, possession is 9/10 of the law, as they say. He had them, so they got donated to Rice, and I guess they're going to stay there.
Okay.
But Ed May, and there's a number of other quite notable folks who have their archives there. And so then they started deciding they wanted to do conferences. Kind of the leader of the whole setup, although there are other important people involved, is Jeffrey Kripal, who's a professor of comparative religious studies and various associated disciplines, and really a nice guy. He's really nice and very smart. But they set up these conferences. I was in on the first one. I was on the panel for the first one, and then I wasn't able to do the second one, and now we're doing the third one.
Okay.
And I'll be having a discussion with another philosopher who is focusing these days on UAP and related phenomena. And they call it a fireside chat. It won't be a talk per se. We'll sit down and kind of interrogate each other, or at least discuss with each other, trying to tease out each other's viewpoints on various aspects of the UAP phenomenon, and of course, from my perspective, how consciousness and ESP interacts with that.
Okay. And when is it? It's next weekend, or?
It starts the 3rd of April and it ends the 5th. And unfortunately, they're all booked up. Although anybody can get in online. There's a nominal charge for it. I'm not sure what, because they got to fund their program, obviously.
Okay.
But yeah, you can be the fly on the wall digitally, electronically.
I see.
If you want. So yeah, and I think if you just look up Archives of the Impossible, you should find it. It might even be aoti.org, but I'm not sure about the URL.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's I don't even know, is UAP even a controversial subject anymore? I think it's becoming kind of commonplace now.
Oh, maybe for the masses.
Yeah.
But when you get into government and academic circles, it's still hugely controversial.
It's still controversial.
Yeah.
I'd say definitely controversial in the world of remote viewing. At least it is for me. It's a bit controversial.
Yeah.
What about for you after all of your years in remote viewing? Has your opinion of the topic within the realm of remote viewing changed any?
So I got to ask, where am I supposed to be looking? Am I supposed to be looking at the camera?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, just a functional issue. Well, yes, it's a little bit complicated answering that question. So I've had some critics out there saying, well, Paul's just now getting into the UFO thing because it's a big thing and it's popular. And that's actually mistaken. I've technically been in the UFO thing since, let's see, it would have been 1983. Obviously,
through remote viewing,
because of remote viewing.
Because of remote viewing.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I've been a real fan of it, and I'll explain why in a minute. But I haven't been a fan of it. But of course, I've been forced to. Oh, there's a camera up there. I've been forced to be involved because of Skip Atwater and Ed Dames tasking me and my other fellow viewers on UAP, ET, exceptional events, all that kind of stuff for remote viewing. And some of it done really well, some of the tasking done really well, some of it done really poorly. And so I think it's a mixed bag what we produce out for me. You know what? I keep wanting to look at you, so
it doesn't.
Whatever. I'll look up here once in a while.
It'll be fine. Man.
And I thought of myself as a kind of positive leaning agnostic. I don't know what's going on with this stuff. I think that there's got to be a there because there's enough credible reporting on it. But what is it? I'm not going to commit myself, and I'm not even going to look into it, right? Because the evidence isn't really good. Lots of anecdotal evidence, which doesn't count scientifically. Well, it counts to some degree, but not where we would want it to.
Yeah.
And so I kind of let it go, and then in. I think 2011, I got contracted to work a small group of remote viewers to set up an actual full program, week-long, in a building that had been turned into gray rooms, like we did at Fort Meade.
Yeah.
I had a dedicated set of analysts, a dedicated set of monitors, and a dedicated set of viewers that I recruited and trained. Mm-hmm. And we did that solid for a week, and I can't disclose who it was technically, so I'll give that a pass right now. Okay. But we got paid well for our efforts and all that, and I was then later told what the target was. Hal Putoff was the technical guy on this. Okay. And it was the Nimitz Tic Tac thing.
Really?
In 2011.
And this was before it was public knowledge?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I could talk about it.
Wow. Now you can talk about it?
Well, I think I can get away with it if I don't reveal who it was I did the work for.
Okay. And you're sure you're cool to talk about this?
We'll find out.
Okay. Okay.
So,
and that was in 2011.
Yeah. And at that point, I'm starting to think, and other things that Putoff has said over the years. I communicate with him regularly, particularly when I lived here in Austin. I was down at his office quite often. And,
which is right down the road from here.
Yeah, it was. He retired his organization now and just works out of this house. Okay. On something altogether different. He's still very much in the UAP world. But then I started thinking, okay, it may be time to come off the fence on this. Okay. And of course, as more and more has become known about that, I met one of the F-18 pilots, Alex. I know her last name. I think I'm sleep deprived. When I come to Austin, I get sleep deprived because I try to do everything I can. In fact, last night I was, I'll get back to the story in a second. Last night I spent a good hour and a half drinking from the fire hose, talking with Eric Davis. And old Eric.
Physicist.
There's no discussing with Eric. There's listening and learning.
Listening.
Yeah, we met at a Starbucks and we had a nice conversation. When I lived over in Brushy Creek. Yeah. And he was only about 3 or 4 blocks from me. And so when I'd ride my bike to go swim laps in the pool, he was out in his yard gardening, and he'd be riding his bike sometimes and all that stuff. And of course, I talked to him a lot when he's down at Hal's office. Yeah. Anyway, the sidebar. Now we'll get back. So, Alex Dietrich. I knew it would come back, but I wasn't thinking about it.
Get on to something else.
She was really interesting, I have to say. She was flying the second F-18 in the formation that was chasing the Tic Tac with the Nimitz encounter.
Okay, I think I recently saw an interview with her.
Yeah, probably did. Yeah. And we had some interesting exchanges and talked about some projects together, which we haven't done anything with at the moment. Okay. I get so many projects and there's so little time.
I can imagine.
And then as I learned about that, and Putoff talked about it, and he provided some more references, that Nimitz thing, you don't get better evidence for a phenomenon than what came out of that. So what you're looking for is multiple channels of information that are independent of each other and yet point to the same thing.
Right.
And that's what we had with the Nimitz. I think I counted up 7 independent information channels, including eyewitness, FLIR cameras, gun cameras, millimeter wave radars, targeting tracking radars. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Some of those are the same, but I think 7 independent channels, and they all indicated the exact same phenomenon going on.
Okay.
It doesn't get better than that as far as establishing the reality of something.
Yeah.
Now, what it is, so far we haven't got there, but the way it behaved gives us some hints. First of all, it's clear that it's doing things that our physics says is impossible.
It's impossible.
And I say that deliberately, our physics, because
Our physics. Yeah.
our physics, the human race is famous for concluding that they now know everything there is to know, and then finding out to their embarrassment they don't know everything that there is to know. And in a way, this whole UAP thing is a wake-up call. It started us trying to find out what it is we don't know. We're getting uncomplacent again. But there's part of the problem with the controversy, is of course you get a lot of skeptics, and a lot of them are in science, who say, no, this is just smoke and mirrors, you guys, you don't know what you're looking at. There's a bunch of baloney, and this stuff is impossible. Of course, when you declare something impossible, you essentially shut down investigation.
Yeah.
And that's what they've been trying to do, in a way. They don't want to waste money on this one. Let me tell you, I'm convinced that it'll turn out to be real, but we'll just speak figuratively here. If it turns out to be real, then I can't imagine anything more important to spend money on than trying to get to the bottom of it.
I agree.
And I think we have enough evidence now to know that it is real. And what it is, that's what we don't know.
Now let me ask you, and I don't want to pry into the project you worked in 2011, but what you saw in your remote viewing, or the remote viewing of your team, was pretty much indicating that it was along the same lines as what happened.
No. So one of the major principles of remote viewing, I think, and people don't honor it the way they ought to, is that if you're right, you get to take credit for it. If you're wrong, which usually means a miss, then you take the blame for that. And we missed it. Now, I think I know why, and it had to do with the tasking, the way the project was done.
Okay.
But that's something you find out after the fact. Right? So we did report, there were a number of reports that indicated UFO event, but it didn't really describe what happened with the Nimitz thing.
Okay.
And so that was disappointing. But, that was the way it went. I think, well, I'll toss this out. And this is speculation because it's really hard to test. I think what went wrong is the intentionality was too far up the chain.
Okay.
So remote viewing is driven by tasker's intent, right? And of course the viewer's intent as well, which is to honor the tasker's intent. And so it's got to be fairly explicit and fairly pronounced, but you still want to honor double blind. You don't want there to be a risk of contamination to the process through non-ESP means.
Right.
And the way this tasking was set up, and I didn't find it out until after the fact, was it was like 4 tiers up. Like, so up here was the tasker's intent, which I have no idea how they formulated that.
Okay.
They could have just messed the whole thing up for all I know, right?
That happens.
Yeah. And then the next tier down was blind, and then the next tier down was blind, and the next tier down was blind, and us, the final tier, was blind.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if that's what messed up our results, because in other similar settings I've actually had pretty good success. And I'm not just talking about UAP kind of stuff, but other things that are equally difficult to get information about.
Sure.
So I don't know, but it didn't work very well, unfortunately, because that would have been a great blow it out of the ballpark thing if it had worked.
It would have been put the hat on.
Yeah.
So, as a self-proclaimed positive leaning agnostic, I think you've
as I was,
as you were, but you're looking at it a little bit differently now, as you've said. in your conversation with this fella coming up at the university, what is his stance on this? Is he like, this isn't real, and you're gonna?
No, he is. So I was speaking out of school here for him. I think he believes that it's a real phenomenon.
Okay.
But as a person saying, comparative religion scholar, they are trained to be neutral.
Right.
On any religiously related phenomenon they come to, right? Their job isn't to endorse truth claims of one religion or another or discount them.
Yeah.
Their job is to essentially,
yeah,
the facts and how it affects the people and what they're doing, their activities.
Yeah.
It's a mix of sociology, psychology, whatever it is. I can't.
They keep their opinions out of it, and
they're supposed to. Yeah. Now, of course, they analyze and they introduce opinions from that perspective, but they're supposed to be informed opinions. But so, it's kind of arm's length kind of a thing, and that's appropriate. I think that makes a lot of sense. But he's very supportive of people who report experiences and stuff.
Okay.
And very
he wants the
interested
data. He wants to add the data into his collection of findings.
Yes. It isn't nuts and bolts data so much as people's experiential data.
Okay.
So for him, anecdotal evidence is important. Right?
Okay.
But he's very supportive of this. It excites him. The subject matter excites him. He very kindly read my book, Reading the Enemy is Mine, years ago.
Yeah. Great book, by the way.
Thank you. Sadly, it's only available on Kindle now, and I haven't seen a royalty check in about 20 years, probably close. Excuse me a second.
No problem.
Got a little dry. Let me try some of this stuff.
Good.
Yeah. Ed calls this cat water. No. Because the cat likes to drink it.
Oh, she loves it.
Fortunately, he distracted her with a fresh can of food, so we're good.
Yeah, I got her out of the way. Otherwise, she would be trying to eat the camera, probably.
Oh, well, he'd have smear marks where her tongue went across it.
Yeah, she's very willful. So it sounds like it's going to be, and the stance that you're going to take in this conversation is going to be, what stance are you taking on? Are you taking a stance?
Well, what I'm doing
say that?
is a little, well, sort of, but I'll explain. So I'm not doing a kind of conventional conference presentation. What I'm doing is what's called a fireside chat. And I'm sitting down with another philosopher, a guy named Michael Safoni, who's founded an organization. I can't think the name. It's got UAP in it right now.
Okay.
I first ran across him. I was over in Germany in October, and there's a German organization called the IGPP, which is, in a way, an equivalent of a parapsychological association, although it's much more. It's more structured. It's well funded and all that kind of thing. But I was there visiting them, and Michael gave a talk for them, Zoom talk that went all over to their affiliates around the world.
Okay.
So that's where I first encountered him, and then interesting synchronicity. I was communicating with Jeff Kripal about this next conference. He said, "Look, I need somebody to have this one-on-one exchange with another philosopher who's into the UAP thing," and his name was Michael Safoni.
And you said, "Ding ding."
Yeah, that rings some bells. Yeah. And so what we're going to do is, I don't know what the format. I presume we'll be sitting in front with a fake fire going or something. I don't know, but we're going to sit down and then we'll try and tease out of each other our own. So I'm going to give Mike the opportunity to elaborate on some of the points he's made in some of his writings, and then he's going to do something similar for me. Now, my big thing, I don't even pretend to be an expert on UAP or UFO or whatever else you want to call it.
Right.
But I'm not illiterate on the matter either. I am wanting to carve out a particular niche in this domain, which is the consciousness elements involved in ET and NHI, as they're calling them now, non-human intelligence, and human interactions.
Okay.
And that, of course, ties right into the remote viewing world.
in the realm of a remote viewer, remote viewing a target that is an alien or something like that, or there's contact, potential contact.
It's way more complicated than that.
Okay, give me
you're remote viewing aliens, remote viewing UFO events, whatever. And of course, that's where my original experience was. In fact, to go back to how long I've been involved in this, at least peripherally, is I've been giving talks on art, remote viewing, and UFOs since the 90s. Not long after I retired, I started giving those talks. And they're not regular, but every once in a while, like I did one for the Rhine Research Center, and I did another one actually locally for a little group that I was on the board of for a while.
The INAX group out here?
INAX, yeah. Well, it was INAX and Miles Lewis's.
Anomalous Archives.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had really good turnout. There was a ton of people that came to it, and similar venues like that. I did that one last year for Contact in the Desert.
Okay.
And then, at any rate, so that that was my original entree into talking about this in public forums.
Okay.
But now, aliens and consciousness, I realized aliens and humans and consciousness is really how I should have. I think I'm going to change the title. Thanks for this interview. It made me think of something. Yeah. But it has to do with remote viewing these things. It has to do with how aliens appear to be manipulating human consciousnesses in order to get us to perceive things that they want us to perceive.
Oh, we're getting deep. We're getting deep stuff here, folks.
It really is. Well, let me just throw out a tidbit here. So people are all worried about aliens, presumably they're aliens, having this massively advanced tech that could squish us like a bug, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the worry. I think the worry is that they may be massively advanced. And along with that, people make the assumption that means they're also morally advanced.
Right.
Which is a logical fallacy.
I agree.
Advanced technology doesn't mean you're advanced morally.
That's correct.
And we see that throughout human history where
Absolutely,
increasingly advanced societies have been just as brutal to lesser advanced societies.
Absolutely.
Now, I think that it's more like, as I call it, the Star Trek, Star Wars model, where there's a whole variety of aliens out there, and some have good motivation, some of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a sidebar on this. So what is starting to be interesting is how these aliens may be manipulating our consciousness, particularly people who have alien encounters and report this weird kind of assortment of, I'm going to call them symptoms, right?
Symptoms.
Sorts of experiences. And sometimes, for example, one person will be standing here and have one total experience, and the person next to them sees or hears or feels nothing at all.
Yeah.
What's going on there? It sounds like manipulated consciousness to me. And I don't want to get crosswise with the abductee community because there's some real passionate believers out there, and I don't want to discount their experiences. But I think that there is some likelihood that some of what people report in abductive experiences may be manipulated consciousness. Aliens have made them believe something's happening to them to cover up what really is happening to them. Right. So, and that's speculation. There's no way for me to prove it one way or the other, and I'm not going to die on my sword about that either, because I know some abductees who really don't like that suggestion, and I don't blame them. I understand what the issue is that this is something that seemed really absolutely real to me, and here's this yahoo over here telling me no, it's all in your head.
Right.
Well, is that true or not? I don't know. We have to allow the possibility. It's essential that we allow the possibility at least, because if that is what's going on, we're in real trouble if we don't pursue that too.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But if aliens do have the capability, that is scary, right?
It is.
Now, to tie it back into remote viewing, Ingo Swann, in a couple of his papers and in Penetration, his book Penetration, talks about aliens, and telepathy was his big thing, which, by the way, in talking to Eric Davis, I find out that there is a lot to the telepathy thing. And he was well positioned to know. Okay. So, anyway, but according to Ingo, the aliens are actually afraid of humans. because humans have a massive capacity for managing and using and engineering consciousness. We just haven't realized it yet. And so one of the reasons there's so much pushback against ESP research, remote viewing research, all this kind of stuff, and they're really different parts of the same thing, is that the aliens don't want us to realize that. And so they are using their abilities to consciously project to influence decision makers and such here to suppress our development of ESP, remote viewing, etc.
Wow.
And, when I first read Penetration back in '99, Ingo sent me a signed copy, and so I read it. I'm thinking, oh, come on. Ingo, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm not sure about that either. And now I'm beginning to think he was actually
onto something.
Prescient, as we say, So
interesting.
Yeah.
I know you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, what are we at? Oh, I have a little bit more time here.
Maybe we just touch on this for a minute before you got to go. But there's a big hubbub in the news, as you call it, the tabloid news, about remote viewing done by the military in the late 80s of the Ark of the Covenant. It's just not new to me, anybody in the remote viewing, but I'm wondering why it is in the news now. I mean, regardless of whether somebody even wants to believe it in any capacity, but it is in the news now. It brings remote viewing into the news. There's a lot of people talking about it. At the same time with this UAP thing, it seems like things are kind of being revealed.
Well, exploited is probably a better term, right? So you might maybe notice this with the Gateway paper. Is that ringing any bells with you?
Gateway, like the Monroe Institute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's huge kerfuffle. It keeps popping up, right? Somebody a while back, I want to say I first saw this thing 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more. Some news source came across this document that described the Gateway experience at Monroe Institute and got off into popular physics stuff like Bentov and these other guys, right? And CIA proves that this or that or the other thing. Well, of course, what they don't tell you is because they don't know. This is like cherry picking, right? They'll find a document in the archives, in the CIA archives, and then they won't know the context, and so they'll just make it into whatever they want.
Make it into a big story.
And with the Gateway thing, it wasn't the CIA that did it. One of my old commanders at Army Ops Group before I went to the remote viewing program was interested in this kind of stuff. He was kind of following the footsteps of General Stubblebine. This guy, Colonel Hambrick was his name. Hambrick was interested in this stuff, and so he asked one of his subordinate commanders of an organization called DEDO, this lieutenant colonel, to look into this. And so they got some operational funds, sent him down to the Monroe Institute. He went through the Gateway program. He read Dancing Wooly Masters and In Search of the Wild Pendulum and these books, that are popularizing physics back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And this colonel came up with this document, and it's really well done. And he says a lot of very interesting things, and many of which may be right, some of which may be wrong. We don't know. And the media got a hold of that, and it keeps popping up. One media outlet will send out a press release about this, and then everybody will jump on the board, and then it'll kind of die out, and then a little bit later it'll pop up again, and it kept going like that. This thing with the Lost Ark is a similar sort of thing, except this is the first time it's popped up. Yeah. Somebody probably doing a deep dive in the archives came across this document. It's a CRV remote viewing session that very precisely describes aspects of the Ark of the Covenant. Mm-hmm. And so they've got that one document, and they're just going crazy about it. And they say the CIA proves the or finds the Ark of the Covenant or whatever. Right. Well, now the context of that is that particular session was done by Dave Morehouse.
Okay.
And Morehouse, I don't know who his monitor was. I thought it would have been Dame's, but the handwriting looks more like Mel Riley. Okay. I've got and they don't publish the whole thing, right?
Right.
I've got the whole thing on a file back home that I haven't looked at in a long time. So I'm going to go back and see if I can figure out who the monitor actually was.
Yeah.
But that was only one of about 6 or 7 of them. I did one, Bill Ray did one, Mel did one. Let me see if I can remember who else. It sticks in my head. Charlene Schuvelt may have, but she might have been gone by then. I don't know. I've got them all. Oh, Buchanan. Lynn Buchanan did one.
Oh.
So I've got all of them on file back there, and I always thought maybe I ought to write a book about it.
Might be the time to do that.
Yeah, it might be if I can get time to do it. Yeah. I should mention, by the way, I'm going to go. I'm speaking at Contact in the Desert again this year.
When is that?
That's the end of May, early June.
Oh.
And I'm also going to be at Phenomicon in Vernal, Utah in September. And plus I'm going to be at the Parapsychology Association meetings in Freiburg, Germany in July. Oh, and I should also throw in PSI games, that one of my students, Hakeem Isler, is organizing. Wow. And it's open to the public, and it's going to be a big blowout.
Okay.
So I've got all those things going on, in addition to needing to teach a class or two. So I don't know if I have time to write a book.
That book in, man. But at least we talked about it here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's stuff I'd never heard of. So, so that's pretty interesting. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
With us like that.
Oh, I'm happy to. Yeah, that's good.
Well, Paul, I don't want to keep you. I don't want to take all your. I'll take your whole day. I mean, we could talk.
I know you. Long. You're greedy.
Well, it's my exploitation factor in me, but hey, no, it's always great.
You know, I am happy. You ask good questions. You give me opportunity to explain things that I don't often get an opportunity to explain. So
well, I appreciate that, and thank you for this time to speak. And let's play some guitars or something before you go.
Oh, yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, a month or two since I played last, but yeah. You've got that Sweet Martin. And what else you have?
I got a Taylor.
That's what I meant, Taylor. You got that Sweet
And I
Taylor.
got a Sweet Martin.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, Dick Allgaier. He turned me onto the Martins, and I love them both now.
Oh, they're gorgeous guitars. That's like Glock versus Smith & Wesson, They're
both great.
Yeah, Glock, I love the ergonomics on a Glock, but I hate it. They don't have real safety on them,
So you can have both, and you can be happy with both.
That's right.
So, all right. See you next time, folks.
I bet you this was fun.